The good old clap, take one.
That's right.
How many of you knew what you wanted to be when you were 7 years old? I did. I wanted to be world champion.
Hey, is there honesty involved in this podcast? Can we be honest?
You can shut your fucking lips.
And then I just said, put them up, what? Let's go.
He's like, you look too pretty on the wave. Get ugly.
We can talk about DMT if you want.
I thought we were boxing.
Okay, so we have, I think aside from like podcast regulars, I think we have a new reigning champion, friend of the podcast, Jack Robinson, back on for your third episode. The trilogy's being completed right here. Jack, thanks so much for coming back on the lineup.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, stoked. Done a few of these, so yeah, stoked to be back on.
You know, I was thinking about this. The last time we spoke was in April, right before you won back-to-back championship tour events, may I add. Am I saying that coming on the lineup had something to do with it? No, but I'm also not saying that. In any event, a lot has happened for you in the last 6 months, so I'm really stoked you're back. I'm happy we get to talk again. First things first, where are you at today? Where are you talking from?
I'm on the Gold Coast right now. Just been based over here for a little bit, so yeah, West Oz, I still go back, but yeah, it's just good being based from here.
Right. Is that a pretty recent move for you? Because I saw some stuff being posted, huge airs. It looks like you guys have had some out-of-season waves, which has been good. But is the Gold Coast location kind of a new home base for you when you're back in Oz?
Yeah, it's good because just to travel from, and the airport's 5 minutes from my house, so it's cool. And yeah, just the boards, like I have my shaper over here, Brendan Leckie, he's been doing a lot of the boards with Sharpie, and yeah, it's just easy, everything's close, and yeah, just mixing it up. I used to spend a bit of time here, but now I spend more time just because it feels like the waves are a bit more similar to the waves on tour. So
sure, yeah,
it's good.
What's your go-to training wave at the Gold Coast?
Yeah, it's always snapper, D-bar, those two, like they're the easiest option. And
right.
Kind of gets you ready too because the crowd's so aggressive, so it's just almost the same as being on tour.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that always kind of shocked me too. That shocks me being in Australia just in general, whether it's Newcastle or Sydney or WA. It's just the floor of surfing talent is so high that you automatically stay pretty sharp. You get people who maybe they're not professional surfers anymore, or maybe they never were, but they're still such high level surfers. They're school teachers and postmen and everything. It's probably just a good way to stay sharp. In addition to, as you said, like the crowd's pretty robust too. So it's pretty aggressive.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. They might not be a professional or something like that, but they're still going to try and hassle you. Like, why not? Like, all right. Yeah. So you kind of got to be on your game everywhere. But yeah, that's what makes it fun too. It's always interesting. Every surf's like a little heat.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna dig into the last 6 months here, but I kind of want to start at the focal point. And in preparation for today's conversation, I had the benefit of rewatching the 2022 Rip Curl WSL Finals, specifically focusing in on your match 3 heat against Italo Ferreira. Have you watched the heat analyzer or any kind of recaps since finals there?
Yeah, I watched it a lot. It was interesting because there's only been so many people that have done that, the new format, and it's the first time for it. As a surfer, there's a lot of build up towards that one day, and yeah, I'd definitely change a few things for next time, but it's all part of the story and part of the next go I have at it. But yeah, I think. Yeah, just make a few little tweaks for next time, and the more experience you have, the better off you are. So, yeah, it took me probably a month to get over it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you said the experience thing, because that's something I think everyone noticed, both on the men's and women's side, is that the competitors who were in the finals last year performed pretty well, whether it was Felipe or Steph or Italo. And as you pointed out, it's such a different format. It's one day for everything on the line. You get one shot. There's all this buildup and all this pressure. And the surfers, even specifically on the men's side, who weren't there last year, Kanoa and yourself and Ethan, probably didn't perform as best as they wanted to. And you almost have to kind of chalk that point of advantage up to just the experience that some of the competitors had last year.
Yeah, there's definitely a few things. But yeah, just in the preparation too, like it's one day. You don't want to burn yourself out before one day because there's so much riding on that day. And then, I mean, it's like the whole year leads up to that. You build up for that and you still got to leave something in the tank for it. So, I was probably, there's a couple of things. I was probably a little bit tired as well on the day, and just like going into it, you want to give everything, but sometimes you just got to build slowly and then give it your all for that day. But it's a good experience.
The heat analyzer is such a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it's nice to go back and analyze everything. On the other hand, the entire world gets to play like armchair quarterback, where they're like, your opening wave, you get this beautiful carve and then a fin drift and then you kick out, and everyone, I know in my head, I'm like, oh, there's a little more meat on that bone. Maybe he didn't look like it, but what if he'd finished it? And then the pacing of the heat got very odd, right? Because you've got Italo, he's hunting the lefts, he's getting like 1,000 lefts. The waves are kind of getting a little slow and a little quiet, and then you start to heat up at the end. But then Italo gets his 2 scores on rights at the end too. So it as you pointed out, like you get one 30-minute shot, and sometimes the rhythm just isn't with you. But looking back on it, do you look at that first wave and think like, maybe I should have just ridden the whole thing? Maybe I should have started going left? Are there anything specific that you'd share with the listeners where you're like, if I could go back, I'd probably do this?
Yeah, it's interesting because I could have started like one way. I could have gone one way, like gone left at the start and started doing what Italo was doing, and then it could have changed the rhythm of the heat the way it went, which is always interesting because that happens so much. And then, which I feel like it's good. I like getting started, and just getting moving. But then, the plan kind of, I was having really good lead up sessions all week and on the rights, and I was feeling really powerful and really good. And then, it was sometimes when you sit too long and you just kind of sit there, like a lot of people go, oh, that you can't perform under pressure. No, I've done it a bunch of times, but it's like, sometimes when you sit there and you let the other guy get going, maybe I just should have gone a wave and changed the pace of my heat, changed the rhythm of it. But it's for next time you maybe be a little more sharper, for that. So
and it's a good point where it's like everyone kind of zeroes in on a singular heat out of an entire year, and you were so clutched through like 9 out of 10, you like very intense, finals, quarterfinal situations, and you're ice perfect 9 out of 10 times, and then that 10th time people are like, oh, he can't perform under pressure. It's like, well, you're looking at a very tiny slice of the season. Like
you're looking at it. Yeah, exactly. And like you can do so good all year and be super consistent, and you have to be to get there, but then it doesn't really matter once that one day is sort of upon you. I just want to go at it again. I know can give way more. So that's it's up to me, and I think I'll be good once I get another shot at it.
For sure. The other kind of, having been there on the ground, the other kind of sliding doors moment in conjunction with the finals was the Rampage you were on at Chopu, right? And, Felipe had an unfortunate early exit. He was the ratings leader heading into that event. I think you needed to get through 1 or 2 more heats maybe to overtake him. And you were, the form surfer of the event in Tahiti. Sure. And you kind of just unfortunately ran into this happens a lot, right? Where the form surfer just runs into this rampaging wild card in Nathan Hedge, and it's a little bit of a wall. And I think there's a lot that could be said about, well, if you'd beaten him, or if you'd drawn someone else and beaten them, and you were the number 1 seed heading into lowers, it could have been a completely different momentum between you and Felipe heading into the finals. Yeah,
different scenario for sure. It feels like the best position. The highest position you can come in at is the best position. 1 or 2 or, doesn't matter, but it seems like it's the best. There's so much energy and you don't have to surf as much. And that was interesting because I was feeling so good there in Tahiti, and just made one little mistake at the end of that heat against Nathan Hedge. And then, Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I guess Felipe's been trying for 9 years, and this is my second year, so I mean, we'll get there. But yeah, it's good to be in the conversation and be going for it with all these guys. I feel like there's 7 guys that are really, really good, between like Ethan, Griffin, Kanoa, me, and then there's obviously Gabby, Felipe, and Italo. Well, actually, one extra. John's going to come back next year too, probably.
Sure,
so
yeah.
There's some really. It's really good to be a part of this movement of all these guys. So that'll make it interesting.
It's awesome. Before we move off the finals, I want to pick your brain on one more topic. You mentioned you needed a month to get over, going down there in match 3. What were your movements like from, losing? Did you hang around and watch Felipe win? Did you get out of there? Like how does that month-long processing of what happened, unfold for you? And then, that, I guess, to be specific, like day 1 after that month, like what does that feel like, and how does your mentality shift?
Yeah, it's you come in and I came in after that heat, and it was just, you put so much pressure on yourself, like it means the world to you. There's just so much on the line for that one heat or that big moment. Sometimes you don't need to do that as well, like it's you just got to go and surf, and sometimes it's better off just getting back to basics. And
right.
It probably wouldn't have been as tough otherwise. But yeah, I was processing it for a month, watching everything back. I guess it was just the build up, just the feeling. You already put yourself in the winning feeling, and then it doesn't happen. So you're like, well, shit, what do I do? It's so yeah, I appreciate, it was cool being a part of it, and it actually ended up making me more hungry. So
sure.
Yeah, just want to get back home and start working again. I think it took a month to get over it. I kept running it through my head, but I got back here and I just started surfing a bunch and yeah, just getting back to basics again and having fun. It's the joy of surfing too. It's that moment's done, and I'll come back stronger next year.
For sure. Yeah, and I remember you and Julia were out that night at the party. You guys were in good spirits. Like at least good sportsmanship. You didn't like throw a tantrum.
Yeah, good sportsmanship. You might not know what's going on the inside. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Crying on the inside, but I want to leave. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll be good to everybody. It's not anyone else's fault. It's I was thinking about it on the inside though. I was like, yeah. So but yeah, it's part of it. It's part of, we all put the pressure on ourselves as athletes. There's so much that goes into it. So
absolutely. Yeah. Well, regardless, you had an incredible season. We're going to dig into it a little bit further after the break, but we're going to take a quick break to get a word in from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. So we mentioned in the intro that following our last conversation in April, you immediately won back-to-back championship tour events at home in Margaret River, and then post-cut, post-relegation with a smaller field in Garageagon. Let's unpack both of those for a minute. We hear so often from surfers, and we've seen it, and I think you and I even talked about it, the paradox of kind of home field advantage in surfing, right? Where it's the event is in my hometown, I have all the experience, I should have an advantage, but the other side of that pendulum is I have all the local pressure. Everyone I see at the coffee shop or, around town, they're saying, win it, win it, win it. And very, very rarely do we see the local victorious at their home break. And you were able to do it. Walk us through just that victory and having to kind of navigate that community pressure and do it successfully as you did.
Yeah, it's such a, there's so much that rides on it. Everyone has big expectation, and they, a lot of people there watch me grow up. So it's like, it's a different feeling. It's really hard to do and sort of channel the right energy, the whole week. And just, there was, John's in the event and he's won it more times than anyone in the last years and put on the best performances. And then, so there's, everyone wants to do really good. And then, but you got really good guys to go through. So it's really interesting. Like, yeah, it feels like there's definitely more riding on that event, if, everyone's just really excited as well, but it's also being able to channel it, and go step by step and go all the way. And also feels like there's other forces at play too, like just, that wave is tricky, like Margaret's, it's like sometimes, it's just the rhythm of the ocean too. I feel like it ended up, going my way as well in the final. It was just, it was feeling in a good rhythm the whole week. And even because we surfed all conditions, it was huge one day and then not so big on the other days. So we got everything during that event. But yeah, it's really interesting, like just all the preparation, all the years. And then that was my moment. So it was really, it was a special win. I think that was probably the most special one, besides my first win on tour, but that one was just because it was home. That was massive. So yeah.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up that first win too, because surfing is not unlike most sports in that there are levels to it. It's not just about making it to the elite level. There's levels within the elite level, and I know you talked about last year, even being at risk of not requalifying, and being able to break through and being able to win, your first championship tour event in Mexico it levels you up, and similarly this year, like surfing so awesome at Pipe, didn't get the result you wanted, bit better at Sunset Beach, bit of a stumble in Portugal, bit better at Bells, and then a breakthrough win at Margaret River, which was such an emotionally loaded event for the tour because that was the last event before the relegation. So you had someone like yourself that was probably not at risk of being relegated, but you're looking to crack into the final five while a third of the tour was about to be relegated to the Challenger Series. So there's just a lot of different kind of dynamics at play at an event like Margaret River.
Yeah, no, I mean, everyone knows the cut was there, but it's sort of, it's not really your focus in the end when you see your level of yourself and you're like, okay, you're not, it's just, that's not part of a goal. So you just, maybe the first year it was, and, you got to make sure you're in a good spot, but yeah, definitely it was really emotionally charged, that Margaret's event. It was a lot of guys and it was hard to stay focused, but that was good going into G-Land too, because we're out there in the jungle and it wasn't that easy. Like towards the end of that event, I think everyone needed to let off the steam, and I stayed focused during that whole event, so it was good. I had a good balance.
It was. I'm glad you brought that up too, because I think you and I talked, and you're in Margaret River. I ended up going to Garage Garden, and we caught up there too. But I was laughing with a few of my colleagues at the WSL and said, I think everyone that was in Margaret River, that might be the most stressful event in the history of the organization, just because of that relegation dynamic. And then Garage Garden was maybe the most comfortable every CT surfer would have felt, because it's like, not only are you safe for the back half of the year, you've qualified for the start of next year, and it's only May. So I think everyone, as you pointed out, it's kind of like, even though the waves are bad, we're going to blow off some steam. But to your point, even though people were doing that, you remain super focused. And I think that obviously like resulted in the big win at the end, and going back to back on the CT is a pretty rare thing.
Yeah, no, it is. And it didn't even matter. Like I had bed bugs in my bed. My bed hadn't been used in 2 years probably, because no one had been to the camp. There's probably monkeys in there before I was in there or something.
Right. But, it was being used, just not by humans. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't care. I was like, all right, let's just go and get this done. But it's crazy. And I think also the last couple of years, like since Mexico, I was a completely different surfer then. It's when I first got on tour, and then this year was different, and then I think next year is going to be way different, because this off season's been really good. So I think it's an exciting time, because I'm going levels and levels, within myself. So just excited to show it.
It's been amazing to watch, not just you, but the collective of the men's and women's championship tours. Yesterday, it'll probably be like a week ago by the time this comes out, but the Challenger Series event in Saquarema was completed with Alyssa Spencer and Gabriel Medina taking home the wins. And I don't know if you were following it that closely, but Gabriel basically admitted that he was using the CS event as an experiment to see how much and how hard he could train his body to increase strength and stamina during a contest window and not compromise his performance, which in my 17 years on tour is kind of crazy to consider. I don't think anyone's ever done that before with those kind of results. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that performing at the elite championship tour level requires so much these days. And for a lot of surfers, that involves considerably more physical and mental training. And you're someone who's been very open about that and how that's a big part of your life as a world title contender, from, you know, the conditioning you do to your diet to everything in between. Can you talk to us a little bit just about how that's been a part of your life, how you're able to stay fit, traveling to these locations, as you mentioned, like sometimes we're fairly remote, might not be the easiest to get great food. Like, how do you go about planning a campaign for the world title with the fitness component in mind?
Oh, it's huge because we're going on airplanes all the time, and it's not good for our bodies. I think there's so much radiation and so many things that happen. Like, we get off the airplane and we go straight to the saunas, or just try and detox. I don't know, get it out of us. But you get run down too, and it might be just your overall health. You might be you're trying to find the nutrients, you know, to get back in the system, if it's diet or you're putting the athletic greens in and getting them to get the microbiome good again, because it's like that's basically at the basis of it. Like, your health starts from inside your stomach. So you need every, you know, nutrients and all that stuff. So different food, different countries. It's just like keeping up with the training. There's so many different variables. So I don't know. You can't run yourself down either. We always want to train a lot more sometimes, and we forget, because like you have to learn to rest too, and recover. So it's just as important, that part of it, the recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I remember, I think you were shooting Stab in the Dark in Hawaii. I think we talked about this last time, but I remember Ashton Goggins from Stab, who was working with you on the project. I think he called me one day. We were talking about something, and he was like, do you know that Jack spends like 3 hours a day on a Swiss ball, and he's huge? And I was like, really? I'm like, the last time I saw him, he wasn't like, you know, huge. But then I'm like, if you say so. And then I think we were hanging each other in Hawaii. I'm like, Jack does look like he's kind of Ivan Drago'd himself out. Like, he's kind of built and like, and I mean, I think that's just that. But going back to what you're saying, like, it's not an avoidable part of leveling up on tour these days. Like, you just can't do what probably people did 20 years ago, which is like, I'm going to party all night, I'm going to have gas station food for breakfast, and then compete. It's like, it's a serious business, and the stakes are very high. Yeah,
you just won't be able to sustain the energy too. Like, it's I mean, it's interesting. Like, the recovery, everything. Like, I don't know, my training's changed over the years too. Like, it was, I used to probably do more yoga. Now it's more of a balance of like the physical and there's just a lot of different things that sort of incorporated to my body. I was bigger before, now I'm not as big anymore, but like I weighed a bit more. But you see the guys on tour, like Gabriel's a big guy, and there's John, there's Jordy, there's a lot of guys that are big. And it looks good. They surf really good. So you got to be strong for sure, but it's just being balanced in the right areas too. I was might have been a little yoked up in some other areas before, but now I'm like, I'm come back down. I'm probably, when you see me, I'm not as big.
Well, I'm glad. That's one of my pet conversation projects. I'm super glad you've driven us into this space, because certainly in the 80s and 90s, there were bigger surfers, but they weren't as consistently good, you know? And I think that was part of the tour. It was part of the equipment. It was part of the venues. It was part of just the approach to wave riding. And then, you know, this always comes up, you know, when people talk about how dominant Kelly's been for so long, and he's not, he's a very strong guy, but he's not a very big guy. And you're totally right. Like, I remember I was working at Rip Curl San Clemente, you know, when I was in high school and college, and when the tour would come to town for lowers, everyone's quivers would get delivered to the shop, and all the CT surfers would come in and pick them up. And my favorite surfer ever was AI. And I mean, I came into the shop one day and I didn't even recognize him because he was so much taller than everyone else that was coming in. And he was only 6 feet, you know, he's like 6 feet, 180 pounds. And I'm like, and then it took me a second to be, oh my God, it's Andy. But he just seems so like much taller than everyone else. And now that size is kind of, as you pointed out, like Owen, John, Gabriel, yourself, like it's around like 180 pounds. It's around 6 feet. And that's a huge advantage physically. And I think fitness, equipment, technique is all caught up to the point where it's not a disadvantage to be a bigger surfer. It's actually an advantage. No,
it's good, especially on the tour. Like the Challenger Series is a bit different, but I feel like on the tour, I mean, it's different waves too. And like, you got to be a powerful, big, like strong guy. Also just to fit in, especially at waves like Pipe and Sunset. And then we have just mainly all the waves. Like power looks good when it's paired with the flow as well. And I think everyone likes watching that. It's good. So, but also you got to be fast. And it's just being able to train and know how to manage that well. So
right. And kind of finding that physique that works for your surfing. I remember like Dusty Payne when he was younger was really lean and loose and fast, and then he really bulked up when he was on tour. Like like didn't have a neck one season. I'm like, wow, this guy's
I remember.
He got big, and he was still surfing great, but he didn't. I think he even admitted that he'd gotten too big, you know, and he was like, I kind of have to lean up because I've slowed up a little bit. I'm not as loose. And does that, I'm not saying that's the exact same thing that you're going through, but does that kind of approach to just having a consistent physique and designing your surfing around that, or designing your physique around your surfing, is that something that you intentionally plan out, or are you kind of just doing what feels best?
Because I used to, like, I remember, Dusty is big. There's a lot of big guys, and everyone's maybe training a lot, but then also eating a ton. And I would just eat like a horse before I'd eat so much. We were in, Bemi will tell you this too, and Leandro and Yago watch me in Mexico. I had pretty much 2 plates every lunch, and then a gigantic plate at dinner. And I won the event. I was using a lot of energy, but I was eating so much food, and I was kind of like, I slowed down after that because I don't know. I just got too juiced up, and it was.
Your shaper's going like, God, like I just got to add another couple of liters of volume, and
no, it puts your boards out too. So I can't keep changing boards all the time, and it's in a way better place now. So I'm stoked. But you learn that as you go. It's it takes a while. When you're younger to figure that out sometimes. But don't eat so much food.
Pizza for breakfast. But you mentioned Leandro and Bemi, who've obviously been transformative for your success at the elite level. And, we talked a little bit about, in partnership with, something like Athletic Greens and just being very deliberate around protecting yourself from global travel and keeping your body as fit as possible. Do you get into kind of the quantifiable sports science, with like the apps and like, the sleep optimization and stuff like that? Or are you more kind of qualitative of like what feels best for you?
It's a bit of both for sure. You when you start looking at too much data, it starts to sort of mess with your head a bit. I mean, some people look at it a lot. But it's good to have that tool there for sure. But then, my sleep, that's what really fixes things, when you get off the plane somewhere, or, it's the sleep, then the food that you're putting in your body, or, like, it's just, and then like Leandro's super into health, and Bemi comes with us, and we all kind of like, there's Yago, but we're all kind of on the same page with that. So it's good. It's, if a couple of us aren't following it, then it's not really good for everyone. So we always try and make the best out of it. Leandro's a good cook too, so he cooks for us all. If you don't know, he's really good at that. And that's cool. It's just good to have people on the same page. We're all going for the same thing. So really cool.
And You mentioned this before of how you've kind of changed things up in terms of how you approach your workouts, or you getting your body and your head right. That does remind me. I remember Mick Fanning talked about this quite a lot too, which I know that people have taken their fitness pretty seriously throughout the course of the history of the tour, but it kind of ebbs and flows. And Mick was kind of like reoriented the tour around fitness after his injury in 2005. But I remember he said something really interesting, because he worked with a ton of sports scientists and fitness coaches and everything. And he's like, I like doing different things. Like, he's like, I can't, like, I'll do something that works great, but even if it's working great after a couple months, I have to change it up. Like, I have to keep my body kind of guessing, where it's like, okay, now we're doing Pilates, now we're doing strength training, now we're doing stamina. Sure. Otherwise, he's like, I just get bored,
Yeah, that's it too. You can't get bored of what you're doing, because then, I mean, like the training part, I'm not getting bored of it at the moment. Like, I'm having fun with it, and it's good. Like, I've had a bunch of different trainers over the last few years, but there's not one person that's a master of all. You always take little bits and little, the good parts from everyone and combining what works for you. So, yeah, no, it's really cool. Been learning heaps about that, and then it's just always keeping it fresh, keeping it exciting. So just as much as the surfing part, it's all gotta be fun. From you go into the gym, you don't want to be a jock. You just want to go have fun in there, but then also take it to the water and keep it ever changing. So it's
Makes
really
sense.
Good. Yeah,
I think the last time we talked in April, and you could heat check me on the timing, I think you had just committed full time to Sharpie, because you went through a period where you're testing a lot of boards. Like the stab in the dark winner was the CI Pro model that now Channel Islands is running pretty heavily. Like, that's kind of their primary board.
That's their board now, isn't it?
That's their board. Yeah. I wonder if you get like a royalty off that or something.
Yeah, no, come on, pay up, boys.
but you kind of, it felt like right around when we talked, or especially in that back half of the year, you really kind of leaned into the Sharpie program almost exclusively, and the boards were fantastic. You mentioned you get Brendan Leckie, their shaper in Australia, he's close to you on the Gold Coast. It feels like this is the most comfortable you've been on boards for a while, because there was a period of kind of trial and error, I think, there for you a bit.
Yeah, I tried boards for quite a while. Obviously I was on Eric Arakawa's for a long time, and I still ride a few of them, but then also, we always kept that relationship good. But then, Brendan's really close here. He works here. Obviously, I got my first boards off Marcio, but then Marcio's in the US. So when I'm over that way, I'll get boards from him sometimes. And
real quick on that, just for the listeners, I just honestly haven't heard this either. Do you notice a difference between the boards you get from Brendan and the boards you get from Marcio, or are they pretty consistent?
They're pretty consistent. It's a little different for sure, because they're both different people. But seems like Marcio is such a good designer, and then obviously Brendan's a really good shaper here. So I work more closely with Brendan, but then I want to start doing more stuff with Marcio, and obviously he has the guys that are closer to him over there. Like, there's Felipe and Kanoa, and then that's me and Morgan down here. But it's between the two of them. I mean, when you work closely with someone, I think it gets more and more consistent. So obviously I work close with Brendan. It's really consistent, but then it's good to have the knowledge of both of them together, because they talk together. There's Brendan and Marcio. It's like, it's a really good combination. So that's pretty cool, just having the channels open between them. And then it has to be like that, because then it's going to be better off for all of us. We're all on the same team, so that's what we're going for, and we want to win events, and obviously the end goal.
I'm curious on the Sharpie program. Is there like one primary Ferrari board that all of you go, yep, when it's high performance, head high waves, this is the model that we all use, or are there slight variations, and do you have a preference compared to Felipe, compared to Kanoa? Because I've noticed that some board programs, it's like, we can go back to the Channel Islands comparison before. It's like, seems like every surfer is going to ride the CI Pro when everything's on the line for the foreseeable future. They're not kind of deviating to different models. How does it work at Sharpie? Like, what's your go-to model, and is that the same that Morgan would ride, Felipe?
The first board I jumped on ever from Sharpie was actually Inferno 72. That's my number on tour. So it was meant to be. And that board went really good. And I was sort of used to that one at the start. And then after that, it was the 77. But I mean, it says 77, but it's been tweaked a lot more for what I'm doing. So each person's different. It's kind of far away from that now. I think it's more of a synergy model that they've been working on. But obviously, yes, 77 is good, but then synergy is that's what I've been kind of gravitating to more now. But then I think Cano, I'm not sure what he's really on, but he's got his own model works really good too.
Right.
So I've been mixing that in, but then just kind of dialing in my boards for next year. It's sort of they kind of dial it like Felipe. I think I don't know what he's on, but everyone seems to go more to their own model. So I want to get to that point where I've got my own unique thing going on. So
What about with board construction? I think kind of one of the this might just be like an audience of one that I'm like, I can't believe not more people are talking about the fact that Felipe won the world title on a carbon fiber vacuum quad. Like that just seems bananas. But
it's a crazy concept.
For sure, right? Like I think that's like a big deal, but I'm the only one that wants to talk about it. With your own like CT quiver, do you play around with epoxies or do you just keep it like, look, I know it works, I'm keeping with, polyurethane fiberglass?
Yeah, I mean, mainly it's the PU boards, polyurethane like boards. I haven't really been as into epoxies just because I'm not really used to them as much. Like the epoxy with the carbon over the top, what Felipe rides. It's really interesting. I just haven't spent enough time on it. So during the year, you don't really get enough time to try all the boards. There's so many events. But now I'm trying them and I'm giving them a go, and they feel pretty good. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But like for next year when we start, obviously, and through the year, we'll just be on the normal boards. But I think for Trestles and the wave pool, I'm wondering how many guys will be on those boards because they've had. Like the guys have had heaps of success on them. Even Kanoa too. He looks good on them in the pool.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm definitely going to give him more of a go. It's exciting. It's good to have that as another option. So they're definitely a different feel though. Yeah.
Totally. Well, I know we've talked about this in our prior conversations, but just a little bit of an update I think would be interesting to hear from you is growing up in the industry spotlight and covers and video parts and Quicksilver and Billabong, and then there was a season, if not more, where you were in between kind of major partners or major sponsors, and since then you've landed at Volcom, which feels like such a great fit, and I know the guys there. Like every time I see them are so like over the moon that they have you and that you've been so successful. It just feels like the most natural place for you at this point in your life, and it feels like it's a really like mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah, it's been really good. And when the less you have to think about that part of it, it's good. You just want to go and surf and be with good partners. For the rest of your career. So that's what it comes down to too. It's a huge part of it now that I've landed there and
sure.
Yeah, just it's been good. You want a good crew to work with, and sort of finding that. So it's really cool. Yeah,
good to hear. Well, we got a couple more topics to get to. We're going to take one more break to get a word in from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. One of the big benefits with Volcom is obviously their presence on the North Shore, and the North Shore is a venue that you've spent a ton of time at over the course of your life, but certainly in recent years, and now with the Challenger Series ending at Haleiwa in a couple of weeks, and then just a few weeks later, we're starting the 2023 Championship Tour at Pipe. What is your plan between then and now? Do you go to Hawaii early? Do you spend time there? Do you spend as much time at home? Like what is your trajectory to the start of the season between then and now?
I'm gonna stay here for a couple more weeks, and then I'm gonna head over there around probably the beginning of December. Go for a couple of weeks during the the Vans event at Pipe,
and
do that as a little warm up. Just get back over there, and then I'll come back and then go back at the start of the tour again. Probably a couple of weeks out. Get there early. Go see Yago and the boys again, and have good time at the house, or be at the Volcom house again. And it's good. It's good having that house and the team that's there today. It's just really good. It's good having another sparring partner too, like Yago. We stay right there. You have your eyes on it. And yeah, just excited to get back into it. If the tour started tomorrow, I'd be ready to go. I feel like I'm just excited to get back and go on again. So yeah, it's really good having that set up though. Like you feel at home, like you stay home here and then you go there. It's like second home. So a lot of history there, and nothing like the North Shore. Every year you get back, you're like, wow, here we are.
It is amazing, for as much as, society changes and surfing changes, it does feel like the North Shore is a constant center of gravity. We had, Greg McGillivray was on last week's podcast, who was one of the filmmakers behind 5 Summer Stories. And he and I talked about the same thing. 5 Summer Stories came out 50 years ago. And I said, it's amazing, 1972, the North Shore was the center of the surfing world. It still is. It's a really special place.
Yeah, right? It's crazy too. Like there's that many people that go through there. There's so much energy that rides on the whole place. Like it just feels like there's so many people go there, and they it's almost becomes so crazy. Like competing there too. There's just so much riding on it, and it's like a condensed atmosphere. And then everyone leaves, and you come back the next year, and it feels like, oh, it's just waiting for us again to to go again. I'm like, okay, how does this place handle us? So it's like, but it's a really special place too. Like Hawaii's a special place. So every time you go there, it's good to appreciate the place, respect it. And I love the waves. So that's the fun part.
You mentioned a few names before as sort of, on the championship tour side, on the men's side, there's sort of that level that are the title contenders with Gabriel's coming back, John's coming back, Felipe, Italo, the final 5 competitors. And it does feel like 2023 might be one of the more intense seasons, performance-wise, because in addition to the championship tour and the race for the final 5 and the world title, it's also a qualifying year for the Paris Olympics, which are going to be held in Tahiti in 2024, which that kind of brings the fangs out on people like someone like Kelly, right? Who's like, all right, well, I'm going to qualify for the Olympics through the championship tour. It just feels like, or someone like John, who's probably looking to perform there as well. It feels like everyone's going to have their A game from the start of the season. Thoughts on that? And does that change your approach to anything? It almost sounds like you're ready for that anyway, and that's kind of how you treat these seasons. But I'm wondering if you've thought about 2023 being any different to 2022.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone always says, oh, this year's going to be more exciting than last year. But it's like...
We say it a lot at the WSL, but that's kind of our job. So
you guys say it a lot, but I think without even saying it, it's like you got 8 guys, right? 8 guys that are in their prime, I feel like, and that's the names I said before.
Sure.
And we're all coming into we're at our age where we're starting our prime, and it's like, I think rivalries will get created, hopefully. That'll be next year. It'd be cool to see some rivalries get created, because we're all coming into our own. We're kind of probably trying to find that and work it out for each other. And then we'll see who we come up against more and more. And, it might be me and Italo. It might be Ethan and Griffin, or it might be, I don't know, whoever it be. I feel like we're going to find that. And, that could be the real exciting part, for everyone watching.
Absolutely. And I think that on the men's side, there's 5 world champs on tour next year, in Gabriel and John and Felipe and Italo and Kelly. And this might be controversial, but of those 5 world champions, I wouldn't necessarily say they're maybe the 5 most dangerous men on tour. To your point, there's probably another 3 or 4 that are that are heating up and in the mix and ready to kind of establish themselves at the pointy end of the rankings, which is, it's exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting, especially like I think that age group of sort of Griffin, Ethan Cano, and me, it's like, oh, there's 4 guys that are going to go against these other, guys that are world champs and younger. And then obviously it's not excluding Kelly. Still want to have some heats of Uncle Kel always. Can't underestimate him. So yeah, that's going to be cool. But it's just, I think it's going to be more intriguing, more interesting for people watching too, because it's just like a whole decade coming up upon us, So
totally.
Of like really exciting guys.
Did you ever see that? It's an older movie, but it's now a TV show. But the Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise interview with the vampire movie from back in the day.
Yeah, I can't remember. That's before my time, maybe.
It would definitely before your time. But we've used this joke quite a bit with Kelly because Tom Cruise's character is sort of a down on its luck vampire, and he's living off of like rats and crocodiles and stuff in the sewer. He doesn't look great, And at the end of the movie, he feeds on this journalist Christian Slater, and that he's like young and beautiful again. And we go, anytime Kelly wins like a CT, he gets like a taste for it. He gets like he looks like he's like 20 years younger, and he's like ready for another world title. We're like, just when we think he's out, he's got like another like he's out of the sewer. Look out, here he comes.
Oh, that movie you said the guy actually eats the journalist, the human.
At the end, yeah. And he's in the car. Him. Yeah. Yeah,
it completely reminds me of Kelly. He's going to try and eat us all next year.
Yeah,
so,
that's right. Yeah.
No, it'll be interesting. He can't get enough. But yeah, it gets addicting. That's like probably all of us. It gets addicting. It's hard to contain that. But that's the part that's going to make us probably create some good rivalries and have some good battles. So just want that to happen.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. But before we go, we put out questions to the Instagram community at the Lineup Pod. We got a ton back for you, but we've whittled them down to 3. The first question we got is from user @Roxy Romero, who asks, "What happened to the haircut you used to have as a kid?"
So I was thinking about that.
That's a good question, then.
Yeah, it's actually good because Kelly goes, "I'm going to shave your head and make sure we do the bowl cut next year." And I'm like, that was my first year on tour. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. But then, I don't know. It's like, yeah, I could bring it back, but yeah, it's I don't know. It was a phase and a time. I don't know. Paddy Pimblett has it in the UFC. It's like the little baby hair that you have. It's like that. But he's rocking it. He is a good fighter too. But yeah, maybe I could bring it back, but maybe not Kelly tell me that because he's bald, so he cannot tell me that.
You don't listen to him for hair tips. No way.
Yeah, no he probably wants me to go bald.
That's right. That's a good answer. Good answer. All right. Next question is from @Shane_Hunt792, who asks, "How much do you prioritize healthy living, diet and training versus just surfing a ton?" Which I think is a good question because we talked a little bit about this, but I'm curious to get your answer.
Yeah, when it becomes more of your daily routine, for sure on the weekends, I have some, I eat different stuff. I'm going to have ice cream and chocolate, but it's like, I'm not going to be, when you get in a contest mode or just every day, your routine, you kind of eat healthy and it just translates into every day. It's kind of, you don't eat as much processed stuff. It's it's definitely priority. But it's without thinking about it too. It just becomes your everyday habit. I really appreciate that part. And especially lately, I've had so many friends that or people that I've known that have sort of passed away this year, and I'm like, it makes every day kind of seem like, you kind of live your day sometimes, half to what you could, half-assed a little bit, and I'm like, I'm going to enjoy the full day, you know what I mean? Enjoy everything. So I'm like, I'm going to take care of my health. But we've also just enjoying it fully, and that's what I've been kind of even showing up, going to the gym, going training, going surfing. I'm enjoying it fully at the moment and doing that every single day. So make the most of it. This is life. It's amazing. And just a little insight. I feel like it's been good.
That's good insight. And also, like, I don't know if you feel the same, but for me, and not that we're on the same level at all, but just I'm say for like anybody, and that's why I'm bringing it up. The momentum moves in both directions. You know, like I had like a horrible diet and drank a shit ton of soda when I was a kid, and then you think like, oh, I can't. But then after a while, you're like, oh no, I like drinking water, and I like eating like healthy things, like even the athletic greens thing. It's like this is makes me feel better, and I get outside and I work out. And then it can swing the other way too, where you're like, I'm stressed. I'm going to eat a pizza for breakfast and have a liter of Coke. And then you're like down a path for like a week where you're like, I've blown it. But I just bring that up because it's like, it might be hard to change habits, I think, for people. But it's once you kind of get in that rhythm, you're like, you have the momentum. And to your point, it's like, I feel better. I got more energy and I feel like I'm living more of my life, which is always nice.
For sure. Yeah, I think definitely as well, like all the processed foods, all that kind of stuff, like, you kind of get away from it when you've been doing it every day, eating like better food and stuff.
Yeah,
it just becomes a part of your daily life. And then obviously I'm into yoga and breathing stuff too. Like breathing's super good. If you can breathe right too, it's like that's a whole other system of your body that works from that. It's it's just like it makes up. I've been watching so many programs on it lately, like from the oxygen, how we breathe to then obviously your blood and then your cells, everything. It's like, it's all connected. Your whole body is. So, and this is your mindset too. Like every day you wake up happy and ready to go for the day and want to live it to the fullest. It's like, this is your mind too. It changes how your body works as well. So, it's really interesting. It's really good.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Last question we have is
Ben Rose's dog going off.
It's good. Bemmy's must be home.
Yeah.
Last question we have is from @captain_Robbie_C, who asks, if you could add one wave from anywhere in the world to the championship tour, what would it be?
I would have done North Point again, but it just doesn't break as often. That's why we probably haven't gone back there. But no. Why did I say that? Take that back. Let's just put Cloud Break on the schedule already. Had a brain fog then. Let's just get that back already. The Goofies want more lefts on tour. We'll give them a left. So it's like, okay.
But then the natural footers are like, this is a good left. Let's put it on tour. So
it's a good left. We'll put it on tour. Everyone wins. Yeah. So Cloud Break it is. Come on, Dave, make it happen.
Done. Let's do it. I'm all for Fiji coming back on tour.
Hey, Elo, we need Cloud Break back.
Yeah. I think he's working on it too. Be great.
It's funny.
Well, I appreciate everyone reaching out and at the Lineup Pod. If we didn't get to your question, sorry, but we will. If you have questions for us, we'll make sure we try to answer them on Instagram. We're now down to the final segment that you've done twice already, and I have your answers from last time, so I can heat check you. It's time for the lightning round. These are 10 questions for you to answer as quickly as you can.
Okay, let's go.
First question. If you could only have one board setup for the rest of your life, single fin, twin fin, thruster, quad bonzer, or finless, which would you choose?
Oh, it's thruster all day.
Yep, consistent.
Yep.
Coffee or tea?
Tea. Chai.
That's the same. Chai, okay, good. I'm going to add that for next time. Burrito or pizza?
Oh, we'll go the pizza.
You've updated.
I could take a few slices, one slice a week, one slice for every day of the week. There we go.
How responsible. Last book you read?
The Four Agreements.
Best surf film ever?
Got a few on the mind. Trilogy, the Bruce movie. It's 2.
Those are your answers. Did you hear they're doing the trilogy update with Seth and Ethan and Griffin, I think?
I know. I was wondering what was going to happen because Griffin just moved to Quicksilver. So is he going to keep doing it, or I don't know what's going on there?
I think so. I think Taylor Steele's doing it, and so I think he's just going to be in it with Billabong stickers, and then he'll just turn up in Quicksilver stuff.
I wasn't sure what the layout of it, how it was going to be finished. I was like, I hope that gets finished because I want to watch it.
Yeah, same. Me too.
Yeah.
Next question. One wave you never have to go back to.
Yeah, I could. It's Chiba. I mean, it's not the worst. It's just like I love Japan. I want to go somewhere else in Japan. It's just that wave. Like I don't know. It never really breaks that much. So yeah, don't think I'll be going back to Chiba. Yeah,
fair point. If you only get to surf one wave for the rest of your life.
Whoo. There's a few I haven't surfed. Maybe.
Are there a few you haven't surfed? You've traveled quite a bit. Like
I've never surfed I've never surfed cloud break. I've never surfed.
You've never surfed cloud break.
Yeah, that's why I want to see it on tour. But I've been to Tahiti a million times. But
fair enough.
Yeah, North Point's pretty good where I grew up. I could surf that for the rest of my life. That's a good wave.
Okay. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm looking at your answer from April. You said exactly the same thing. I should have known.
Yeah.
I'm kind of shocked.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I got to go back. I got to go there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Come on, let's go.
All right. Maybe just you and I. If we're not on tour, let's just go.
Yeah, let's go. We're going to make some more podcasts over there. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we'll get. So Athletic Greens will sponsor it. We'll go do it.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Best person to share a lineup with?
Someone that Yago's pretty good. We have good sessions together. Griffin's pretty cool too. He's a fun guy to surf with. Yeah, those two guys. They're actually three is a bit of a crowd, but between those two guys, I'd probably go with us three. That's a good crew.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Worst person to share a lineup with?
Oh, there's so many guys.
You did name someone in April.
Yeah, I know. I named Geordie before, I think.
Oh, right. Yes.
He takes too many waves. He's always on the good waves.
He's got long arms. That's the problem.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Bruno. Just got to get every wave. No, I'm just kidding. There's a few on tour. Actually, probably some of the girls actually take too many waves, to be honest. Like... You know, Carissa takes a lot of waves. I will give her that. But she does focus a lot and she gets a lot of waves. So, yeah, maybe if it's just me and her in the lineup, it's good. But when there's a crowd, she gets so many waves. So sometimes too many waves. I'm like, oh, Carissa, everyone, every wave. But she's so good. So I like that she keeps focused during the session. It's good to catch a lot of waves.
Doesn't get
She's not the worst person to share a lineup with, but she catches a lot of waves.
Fair enough. Last one. Finish this sentence. I will next achieve a state of happiness by
living each day to the fullest. I know it sounds cliche, but it's been kind of my motto. I've been showing up every day, having so much fun every day. So let's keep it like that.
Beautiful. Jack Robinson, thank you so much for coming back on the lineup. Congratulations on an amazing whole season, but certainly since the last time we talked, it was incredible. It's awesome watching you surf, and we're just a few weeks away, really, from watching you take on pipe. So I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited too. It's going to be hopefully a good little warm up, and then like I probably could have even said more during the podcast, but it's like I want you guys to see me next year and bring some entertaining surfing and just get back to basics and just keep going. Keep going. You don't want to say too much. We'll bring you back on the podcast for round 4. True. You can bring me back for a 4th time. Once we get Cloud Break back on, let's go. That's right. When our scouting mission out there. Cool. All right, Jack. Stuff. Thanks so much, buddy. Yep. Cheers, Dave. Appreciate it.